Have you ever experienced a connection so warm, so genuine, and so deeply affectionate that you truly believed you had finally found your safe place, only to watch that exact same person turn cold, distant, and walk away without a clear explanation? It is one of the most disorienting experiences a heart can endure. 1 week, you are sharing late night conversations, building trust, and feeling a rare spark of emotional safety. The next week, you are staring at a screen, waiting for a text that never comes, left to decipher the sudden silence of someone who swore they cared about you. What if their sudden withdrawal had nothing to do with a sudden loss of feeling, and everything to do with a subconscious survival mechanism triggered by closeness itself? To understand why people pull back from the very connections they claim to want, you have to look past the surface excuses they gave you and examine the hidden mechanics of human attachment. Most people assume that when a partner creates distance in a healthy relationship, it must mean their feelings were fake or that you did something to push them away. But psychological research paints a completely different picture. For a person living with an unhealed avoidant attachment style, true emotional safety doesn't feel like peace. It feels like an existential threat. Have you ever considered that the very depth, consistency, and vulnerability you brought to the relationship was the exact mirror that activated their deepest internal panic? To grasp why this happens, you have to look at how an avoidant mind experiences love. In the beginning, during the initial stage of dynamic chemistry and lighthearted dating, everything feels easy. The risk is low, expectations are minimal, and the relationship provides positive validation without requiring total emotional exposure. But as the bond naturally deepens, as conversations turn toward genuine vulnerability, long-term alignment, and mutual reliance, an invisible alarm system goes off inside their nervous system. Where you see an exciting bridge to deeper connection, their subconscious mind sees an encroaching trap that threatens their fundamental sense of independence. This dynamic triggers what psychologists call the intimacy fear loop. People with avoidant tendencies rarely step into a relationship intending to hurt anyone. They crave warmth and companionship just like anyone else. But because their early emotional history taught them that depending on others leads to disappointment, suffocating control, or inevitable abandonment, they developed a core defense mechanism: self-reliance at all costs. When your connection grows so strong that they start to rely on you and realize you are relying on them, their brain misinterprets that healthy interdependence as a dangerous loss of control. What happens inside a person's mind when their desire for love clashes directly with their terror of being consumed by it? When that internal friction reaches a boiling point, the avoidant mind resorts to a subconscious strategy known as deactivation. Deactivation is an emotional shutdown mechanism designed to restore distance before real vulnerability can take root. Instead of turning toward you and saying, "I am feeling overwhelmed by how fast things are moving," or "I am terrified of being hurt," their mind automatically creates reasons to pull back. Suddenly, small quirks or habits of yours that never bothered them before become intolerable flaws. They start hyper, focusing on minor incompatibilities, convincing themselves that something is off, or asserting that they just aren't ready. They slow down their communication, become elusive about plans, and introduce subtle micro-withdrawals of affection. None of these actions are driven by your behavior. They are mental gymnastics designed to justify their exit without forcing them to confront their own unaddressed fear of intimacy. If their retreat was simply a mechanism to soothe their own internal panic, why did it leave you feeling like you had to walk on eggshells just to keep the peace? It left you walking on eggshells because as they pulled away, your natural response was to lean in. If you carry an anxious or secure attachment style when someone you care about creates emotional distance, your internal security system senses danger. You try to bridge the gap. You offer more understanding, try to open up honest conversations, ask what is wrong, and bend over backward to restore the closeness you once had. But here lies the tragic paradox. In an avoidant, anxious cycle, the harder you reach for connection, the more pressure they feel to run. Your efforts to repair the bond feel to them like emotional demand, and their instinct to retreat feels to you like cold rejection. You end up trapped in a painful dance where the very effort you make to save the relationship accelerates its end. How many nights have you spent replaying your final interactions, completely unaware that their decision to leave was set in motion long before you ever said a word. To fully understand why that painful cycle feels so destructive, you have to look closely at what is happening beneath the surface during the stage of deactivation. When an avoidant partner starts pulling away, they rarely do it with clear, straightforward communication. Instead, they use subtle tactics called deactivating strategies. These are mental and behavioral maneuvers designed to suppress their feelings of attachment and convince themselves that leaving is the only logical choice. They might suddenly bring up an ex-partner, idealizing a past relationship that didn't work out to prove that you aren't the one. They might romanticize an impossible standard of a phantom ex or an imaginary perfect soulmate who has no flaws, making it impossible for any real breathing human being to measure up. Have you ever found yourself competing with a ghost or an impossible ideal, trying to prove your worth to someone who had already decided to move the goalposts? When someone uses these strategies, it creates a deeply disorienting reality for you. In the beginning of the relationship, they made you feel seen, valued, and prioritized. But as deactivation takes hold, their tone shifts, their replies become short, their affectionate gestures vanish, and their availability dries up. They might say things like, "I just need to focus on myself right now," or "I don't think I have the emotional bandwidth for a relationship." While those statements might sound like genuine reasons on the surface, they are often self-protective shields. By framing the issue as an abstract problem of timing or readiness, they avoid facing the underlying truth that the moment intimacy demanded real emotional presence, their fear took the driver's seat. If their exit was driven by an internal fear of intimacy, why does it leave you feeling so completely discarded and worthless? It leaves you feeling discarded because human beings are wired to seek meaning in silence. When someone disappears or pulls back without giving a clear, vulnerable explanation, your mind fills in the blanks with your own deepest insecurities. You start questioning every detail of your appearance, your personality, and your emotional expression. You think, maybe I was too needy, maybe I asked for too much, or maybe if I had just given them more space, they would have stayed. But notice what is happening here. You are taking full responsibility for a dynamic that was driven by their emotional limitations. You are trying to solve an equation where the missing variable was never your effort. It was their capacity to handle closeness. What if the neediness you blamed yourself for was actually just a completely normal, healthy human desire for connection? This is one of the most toxic side effects of being involved with an avoidant partner. It makes healthy emotional needs look like clinginess. In a balanced, emotionally mature relationship, asking for consistent communication, clarity about the future, and mutual support is not a burden. It is the baseline of partnership. But when you express those basic needs to someone who is actively deactivating, they treat those requests as overwhelming demands. They pull back even further, making you feel guilty for simply asking for basic consistency. Over time, you begin to shrink yourself. You lower your standards, suppress your questions, and accept breadcrumbs of attention, hoping that if you demand nothing, they will feel safe enough to stay. Have you ever noticed how shrinking yourself never actually made them come closer? It only made you lose yourself in the process. Shrinking yourself never works, because an avoidant person's retreat is not caused by your presence. It is caused by their own internal programming. Even if you became completely silent, perfectly accommodating, and asked for absolutely nothing, their nervous system would still find a reason to feel unsafe. In fact, total compliance often accelerates their withdrawal, because it removes all challenge and deepens the domestic intimacy that scares them most. They aren't running from your expectations. They are running from the internal vulnerability that real connection requires. What happens when you finally stop chasing someone who is running from themselves and start looking at the dynamic for what it truly was? When you step out of the fog of self-blame, you begin to see the relationship clearly for the first time. You realize that you were trying to build a bridge to someone who was constantly pulling back their end of the foundation. You see that their withdrawal wasn't proof of your lack of value, but proof of their inability to sit with real depth. Loving an avoidant partner often feels like trying to warm yourself by a fire that goes out every time you get close enough to feel its heat. It is an exhausting, soul-draining loop that keeps your nervous system in a state of constant high alert, waiting for the next shift in emotional temperature. Now that you can see the hidden mechanics of why they ran away, How do you break free from the obsession of trying to fix someone who chose to walk away? Breaking free from that obsession begins the exact second you stop treating their emotional withdrawal as a puzzle you are required to solve. For weeks, months, or maybe even years, your mind has been trapped in an analytical loop, trying to decipher their mixed signals, their sudden silence, and the wall they built between you. You've reviewed every text message, recounted every shift in their tone, and searched for a hidden key that could somehow unlock their emotional door. But the hardest, most liberating truth you will ever accept is this: their distance was never a secret code waiting for you to crack. It was a clear, unmistakable boundary marking the edge of what they were capable of giving. What happens to your heart when you finally give up the exhausting job of trying to rehabilitate someone else's emotional capacity? When you step down from that role, a profound quiet replaces the chaos in your mind. You begin to understand that you were never dealing with a lack of love on your part, but with an insurmountable deficit of readiness on theirs. A person living inside an avoidant fortress cannot be loved into openness by external force. No amount of patience, understanding, or self-sacrifice from you can undo years of ingrained emotional self-defense mechanisms that they themselves refuse to address. When someone's primary survival strategy is to run whenever things get real, staying in their life only turns you into collateral damage in a war they are fighting with themselves. If staying in that dynamic was slowly destroying your peace, why did it feel so incredibly hard to finally let go? It felt hard to let go because you weren't just attached to who they were in the quiet moments. You were addicted to the cycle itself. Psychologically, the anxious-avoidant dynamic operates on an intermittent reward schedule, the exact same mechanism that makes gambling so addictive. When an avoidant partner gives you warmth, attention, and connection, your brain experiences a massive rush of dopamine. But when they pull away without warning, your system crashes into anxiety and withdrawal. When they finally drop a breadcrumb of affection weeks later, the relief feels like pure euphoria. You mistake that intense cycle of anxiety and relief for deep soulmate-level passion, completely forgetting that true love is characterized by consistency, stability, and peace, not constant emotional whiplash. How much of what you thought was deep passion was actually just your nervous system reacting to the terror of being abandoned? When you begin to separate real connection from emotional instability, your definition of a healthy partnership completely shifts. You stop being drawn to the excitement of the chase, and you start craving the safety of consistency. You realize that a partner who makes you earn their basic affection, who shuts down during conflict, or who retreats the moment you express a genuine need, is not offering you a mystery to solve. They are offering you a preview of your future. If you had stayed, if you had somehow convinced them to come back without doing their own deep internal work, you would have spent the rest of your life playing small just to keep them from running. What if their departure, as painful as it felt in the moment, was actually the universe stepping in to protect you from a lifetime of emotional starvation? The moment you reframe their exit as protection rather than rejection, the entire narrative changes. You stop asking, "Why didn't they choose me?" And you start asking, "Why was I willing to choose someone who made me feel invisible?" This is where your true power returns. The goal of understanding attachment styles is not to give you more excuses to justify their poor treatment of you, nor is it to hold out hope that they will suddenly realize what they lost and transform overnight. The true purpose of understanding these patterns is to turn the mirror back on yourself, so you can heal the unaddressed wounds that made you accept breadcrumbs in the first place. Why did a part of you believe that you had to work so hard, fight so fiercely, and break yourself down just to earn basic love? That belief was built on a lie born from past experiences that taught you your value was tied to how much you could endure for someone else. But you do not have to prove your worth by surviving someone else's emotional neglect. You do not have to perform, minimize your needs, or walk on eggshells to be worthy of a deep, abiding, and courageous love. The right person will not run when you show up authentically. They will not treat your vulnerability as a threat, nor will they make you feel like a burden for wanting clarity about where you stand. When you offer them your heart, they will match your depth with their presence, not with their exit. Now that you see the truth behind why they ran away, how will you use this clarity to rebuild a life where you never shrink for love again?